World War II was decided by vast armies, industrial power, and global strategy. But it was also shaped by moments that never appeared on maps. Moments when small groups, or even single individuals, faced overwhelming odds and chose not to yield. In this video, we examine two separate battles fought weeks apart, under entirely different conditions, but united by a single reality. At Lanzerath Ridge, 21 American soldiers delayed hundreds of elite German troops at the opening of the Battle of the Bulge. At Holzwihr, a lone second lieutenant held off a German assault when his unit was on the verge of collapse. Both actions were real. Both were documented. And neither relied on reinforcements, miracles, or last-minute rescues. Only terrain, timing, discipline, and refusal to surrender. By 0800, movement appeared in the trees below the ridge. German troops advanced in formation. They were not Volkssturm or exhausted rear units. They were Fallschirmjäger, elite paratroopers of the 3rd Parachute Division, experienced, disciplined, and heavily armed. Estimates later placed their strength at 300 to 500 men in this sector. Bach ordered his men to hold fire. The Germans approached within 100 yards, unaware of the American positions. Snow muffled footsteps. The Americans waited until the lead elements reached a shallow draw directly below the ridge. Then Buch gave the order. Rifles cracked. A .30 caliber machine gun opened up from the left flank. German soldiers fell in the snow, caught in overlapping fields of fire. The surprise was total. The first German assault collapsed within minutes. Throughout the morning and into early afternoon, the Germans regrouped and attacked again and again. Mortars bracketed the ridge. Rifle grenades detonated among the trees. German machine guns fired blindly toward the American positions. The Americans held. Ammunition ran low. Radios failed. The platoon had no artillery support, no armor, and no hope of reinforcement. Several men were wounded. One was killed. Still, Buch repositioned his machine guns, shifting fire lanes to create the illusion of a larger force. By 1500, German officers concluded they were facing a battalion-sized defense. The delay at Lanzerath Ridge forced the German timetable off schedule. Units behind the Fallschirmjäger were halted. Roads became clogged. The momentum of the offensive slowed at one of its most critical early moments. As night fell, German artillery intensified. Finally, under cover of darkness, German troops infiltrated the ridge from the flanks, something Buch's men, exhausted and nearly out of ammunition, could not prevent. At approximately 2,000 hours, the surviving Americans were surrounded. They did not surrender until ordered to do so at gunpoint. The platoon was taken prisoner. For decades, their action went largely unrecognized. Records were lost, reports were incomplete, but the facts remained. For nearly 20 hours, fewer than 24 American soldiers delayed an entire German regiment at the opening of Hitler's last major offensive in the West. Act 2. Holzwihr, 26th January 1945, near Holzwihr, Alsace, France, 1400 hours. 6 weeks later, and hundreds of miles south, the war had shifted again. The snow was still deep, the cold was still brutal. But now the German army was retreating, fighting delaying actions along the Colmar Pocket to slow the Allied advance into Germany. Near the village of Holzwihr, elements of the 3rd Infantry Division were under attack by German infantry supported by armor. One American company had been reduced to a fraction of its strength. Among them was 2nd Lieutenant Audie Murphy, 21 years old. German tanks advanced across open ground, supported by infantry moving through wooded patches and irrigation ditches. American anti-tank weapons were gone. Communications were breaking down. Murphy ordered his remaining men to withdraw into the forest. He stayed behind. A burning M10 tank destroyer sat disabled in the field. Its ammunition was cooking off. Murphy climbed onto the vehicle and manned the exposed .50 caliber machine gun despite the risk of explosion. For nearly 1 hour, Murphy fired alone. He directed artillery fire by telephone while engaging advancing German infantry at distances as close as 50 yards. German soldiers fell in the snow. Attacks stalled. German units believed they were facing a fortified position. Not a single wounded officer. When his ammunition ran out and the German advance finally slowed, Murphy rejoined his men and led a counterattack that retook the position. The German assault collapsed. Later analysis estimated Murphy had faced approximately 250 to 300 German infantry, supported by tanks. He survived. For his actions at Holzwihr, Audie Murphy received the Medal of Honor, the highest award for valor in the United States military. These two actions were not connected by command, location, or circumstance, but they were connected by something more fundamental: small numbers. No retreat, no surrender. At Lanzerath Ridge, young soldiers delayed an army by holding their ground when retreat would have been easier. At Holzwihr, one man stood alone when withdrawal meant collapse. Neither event changed the war by itself, but together, they represent the reality of World War II combat, where outcomes were shaped not only by generals and divisions, but by moments when individuals refused to break under pressure. History often records the movement of armies. Sometimes it turns on 21 men on a frozen ridge. History often remembers the outcome of battles, not the moments that held them together. At Lanzerath Ridge, a small reconnaissance platoon, never meant to hold ground, did exactly that, buying time when time was everything. At Holzwihr, a single officer absorbed the weight of an attack that should have broken his line. These actions did not end the war. They did not alter borders or force surrender. But they reveal something essential about how wars are actually fought, not by numbers alone, but by decisions made under exhaustion, fear, and impossible pressure. World War II was not only a conflict of nations. It was a series of moments where individuals chose to stand when withdrawal was easier, and sometimes that was enough. If you want more historically grounded World War II stories told without exaggeration or myth, consider subscribing.